Hello and welcome to my workshop. So we made this second F250 body, and we're going to be just doing a patina job on this. So first we got to get it painted, and then we're going to do the patina. So maybe a little quick video. Let's get started. The first thing to do when starting a paint job is figure out what you want it to look like. The paint job was easy to figure out since I had a reference material that I was following. The paint job had large areas of surface rust exposed. The first step, after getting it smooth, primer finish, is to selectively spray red rust primer and terracotta paint on the body. I even taped off a few areas where I didn't want rust, in case it got sanded back a bit too far and show the primer. The two paints offer a good base layer for rust patina. Many think of rust and go straight to brown, but in reality, rust really has a varying shades of orange, yellow, red, and brown. Mostly orange, but it depends on the stage of the rust. After applying the rust base colors, a body color is sprayed on evenly on the entire vehicle. You want to pretend that the vehicle will be super shiny and do your best job here. Wet sanding with 400 and 600 grit paper is what is used to peel away the layers to reveal the color below the paint. Special care needs to take place around the edges and high points. It is really easy to go too heavy in these areas. Once I have the paint sanded down, layers of wash are applied. Here I am using rust, khaki green, and brown. Like the application of rust, dirt and grime are rarely the same color. The washes are very thin and can easily be wiped away. There were some areas which had more paint removed than necessary. This is easy to do on a handmade body since the surface is never perfect. What I am doing is applying rust, orange, and brown color paints to cover up the primer in white. Since I am only working with a handful of colors, what I do to extend them is custom mix the colors. I can place a drop of rust wash in with a brown, or mix rust wash with khaki green. All of this just helps emphasize the different shades. So I wanted to add in some carpet to the interior, which I accomplish with some charcoal flocking. You just need to spray a heavy coat of clear and use the flocking tool to evenly spread it out over the piece. One of the things I have been very happy with lately is the addition of 3D printed resin parts. Here I use a Molotov chrome ink pen to apply some highlights to the pieces after the paint has dried. I have 1mm, 2mm, and 4mm size nibs for the pens, but I also have a refill container. I often place a small dot of ink on a scrap of plastic and just dip the pens in it. I can get a better control than relying on the valve in the pen. As mentioned before, the secret to a super shiny chrome is a shiny black base coat. Here are a bunch of parts getting that treatment. Where I have tabs, I use them to hold the piece into the cardboard. If there is not a tab, I use a small piece of carpet tape. One of the hardest things to do when painting patina is to keep it looking consistent. This is especially the case when you paint two parts separately. I painted the base colors for the cab in the same manner as the bed. I also tried to wet sand in a consistent fashion. There are differences, but these are consistent with the inspiration photos. This means that the roof and the hood are almost completely sanded back to rust and primer colors below. I find it interesting that you can see the layers of the blue paint, almost like tree rings, from where I sanded it back on the hood. To me, it gives it a look of where it's super thin on the edge and gets thicker the closer it gets to the good paint. Again, a number of washes and paints were applied and removed to get the final result. I noticed that there were panels which had rust that were way darker than others, even when they were directly adjacent to each other. I just needed to go a little heavy-handed in these areas. A key to patina is sealing the effect before switching to another effect. I accomplished this by spraying the entire truck with a clear coat after getting the rust to a level that matched the inspiration photos. This allows me to switch to oil-based products and not affect the rust patina below. I want to try a product suggested by Matt at Scale Builders Guild. There are also oil paints, like I have here, but the process for applying them seems a lot less messy. My oils are getting a little bit old, and for some reason, they are hard to find locally. So these oils are packed with linseed oil to keep them from getting hard. When you use them, a small dab is placed on a paper towel and then allowed the paper towel to suck up the excess linseed oil. After a few minutes, it is ready to use, but this is the messy part I'm talking about. The first effect I'm going for here uses brown and red oils. I focus on placing small dots on the rust areas before spreading it out using some thinner on a brush. You want to dip the brush in the thinner and then remove most of it on a paper towel. That allows the oil to be drug around and blended together. Another effect I'm going for is to represent a paint job that has lost its luster as well as picked up a few stains over the years. For this, I am using blue, green, and cream colored oils. I again place small dots, but this time I focus on the painted areas. These are spread around and blended together in order to achieve the effect. One of the hardest things is to try to produce a random effect. Doing things randomly without a pattern is nearly impossible for humans, but I do my best here. As before, the cab is worked on after the bed. I follow the same process of placing small dots before blending it into the paint. I really like the Molotov chrome ink, but you need to be careful when you apply it. The best bet is to put it on as late in the process as possible. The main reason is the reaction paints can have to the finish. Even with a good lacquer finish, it can still be turned from a chrome to a gray if you're not careful. The taillights get a base of chrome to represent the reflectors. I bolt the vacuum form seat to the scratch-built base in preparation for finishing up the interior. A really nice touch is to make rubber floor mats. I'm using 1.5mm thick rubber sheets with a small texture to make the mats. It's easy enough to cut with scissors or a sharp knife. I was very honored and surprised when the customer asked me to place my logo on the door. So my Cricut machine was used to cut the logo on some mask material. I then airbrushed the logo on white to the door. A few small drops of blue were added in to the white to give it a little more of a faded look, before I eventually sanded it back. Another easy touch to step up your interior is to add a headliner. This is easily accomplished with 1mm craft foam. A similar blue color was used to make the headliner. I just cut a piece that was a little big and then I pressed it into the cab. It's thin enough to keep the imprint visible so it can be cut. I figured this headliner would not be the pristine blue that it is, so a little wash was added to dull it down as well as to make it a little dirty. It's easily glued into place with some E6000. The last piece to weather is the grill, for no more reason than I kept making it off until the very end. White was chosen for the color, and a base coat and clear coat were applied. I did not place any rust color beneath the paint, since I knew I wasn't going to heavily rust the grill. I just needed to make it look grimy with a few small areas of rust here and there. It has been fun to make two F250 bodies and go in such different directions with them. I have a few projects which are going to be a challenge coming up, but I look forward to that. Until then, we'll see you on the rocks.